special welcome and thanks to every one of you for honoring our invitation. Thank you very, very much. We are very grateful. Concerning Black History Month, I want to quote Martin Luther King, who said, "Our lives begin to end the moment we become silent about the things that matter." So as writers, we are very privileged that we are able to educate, entertain, encourage, impact people with words through our writing. This book was set in the early 60s. It's historical fiction, and it portrays how our dreams, our hopes, our desires, even born to a dream, how it can be achieved in spite of problems, obstacles, or challenges that one faces. So this is a book that would really encourage one to read. Ngozi, the heroine in this book, very much like Maya Angelou, grew up in an environment full of racial tension, discrimination, segregation, prejudice. And they weren't allowed to breathe the air of freedom, peace, human rights. So how does one achieve in such an environment? That is what this book tries to do. It tries to show how people at that time, living through this kind of situation, this kind of life, how did they fulfill their dreams? How did they achieve what they wanted to achieve? Now, I'm going to read to you a bit from my book, just to kind of, whet your appetite. Yes. Whet your appetite, yes. Okay. My mother was dressed like she was going to church. Her heeled shoes clicked on the pavement with each step she took. My heart was beating fast. Mom had said that Mr. White was a giant. Was she going to fight him? I began to picture her accusing the principal, to face his raising voice in agitation. I imagined the principal asking his secretary to call for the security officers to forcefully remove my mother from his office. I felt so tense that I thought I needed to use the bathroom, but then we arrived at the office. "Wait here, Masha," while I talked to the secretary. Her tone had turned hard like steel. A battle was coming. Miss Beth Washburn, the secretary, looked up from her papers without any show of surprise. I wondered at that. She did not ask any questions. In a few seconds, she was escorting my mother and me to Mr. White's office. I heard Mom's heels hit the floor like a hammer. Then we waited by the door while the secretary went in to announce our presence. At this stage in this book, we can't breathe, as you can see. It rings bells.
Yeah.
What bells does it ring? I heard somebody say, yeah. What bells does we can't breathe? What bells does it ring?
Black,
yes,
Black Lives Matter.
That's right, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, exactly. So, when you read this kind of book, you ask yourself, the dream that Martin Luther King had, how far has that dream been actualized today? Hardly, partially, barely, or, how are things getting better? So that is what this book is about. It's very interesting because I actually know the heroine in this story. She's my sister-in-law. She's Black American, African Black American. And if not for her, I wouldn't have known the kind of life women lived. At the time that people were feeling so prejudiced, against females going to school, or even the female gender in general, so this is actually a very interesting book. And you know that words have influential power. So if you read this book, like Atinke said, we would like you to drop a feedback. How do you impact others? You need to use your words. So if you read the book and you don't give feedback, you're not impacting others. How would So it's very important that you encourage us through your feedback. Very, very important. Thank you for those of you who came here last year. I can see many faces who were here last year. So I'm very encouraged. And that reminds me, don't forget to give the feedback of the books you got last year. Very, very important, you know. That's good. I don't have much more to say than to say that I appreciate you all for coming, and that reading this story just tells us how she tried to survive in an atmosphere in order to achieve her dreams. So that is all I will say for now about this book. Thank you very much.